long time ago, back in the Wild West, lived a young man named Henry McCarty. You may not recognize his name, but surely you'd know him by the alias he would become known as. Henry's life was filled with adventures, dangers, and stories that had been told and retold for generations. People can't agree if he was a hero or if he was a troublemaker. So who was Henry McCarty? This video will travel back in time to uncover the true story of a young man whose alias would become legendary. This video will explore the life of Henry McCarty, from his early days to his final moments. Welcome to the story of Henry McCarty. His story starts in New York City, where Henry McCarty was born on November 23rd in 1859. Henry's life began in a big, busy city, but his family longed to live in a place with more room and fewer people. So they packed up and moved west like many others back then, hoping for a fresh start. Henry's life changed a lot when they moved. After his dad died, his mom Catherine took Henry and his brother to a new home in Silver City, New Mexico. A place different from New York, it had huge skies and lots of space. In Silver City, Catherine married again, trying to make a good home for the boys. But then Henry faced another big change. His mom died when he was 15 and he was left without parents. Now this is a big moment that led Henry down a path that would be told in books, movies, TVs, and yes, even YouTube videos. Without his mom and dad to guide him, Henry started to hang out on the edges of town. He was smart and could charm people, but instead of using these gifts for school or work, he used them to get by in tough situations. These are the beginnings of the years of Henry McCarty, who today we know as Billy the Kid. From a big city to the wildlands of New Mexico, his early days were full of changes. They helped turn a young boy into a story that people still talk about. A story of adventure, loss, and finding out who you are in such a big world. After his mother's death, Henry McCarty stood at a crossroads. Without the warm guidance of family, he found himself drifting towards the shadowy corners of Silver City. It was here that Henry began to build a new identity. Henry's first steps in the world of outlawry were small. A stolen piece of food here, a borrowed horse there. Every time he did something wrong, it pulled him further into a world of trouble. He was figuring out how to get by while staying just outside of the law's reach. It wasn't long before Henry's small crimes grew more daring. Horse theft, a serious crime in the West, marked his transition from a mischievous youth to a wanted man. The thrill of the chase and the need to survive pushed him further away from the path of an ordinary life. As Henry's reputation grew, so did his friends in the world of outlaws and gunslingers. He learned to shoot, to ride, and to live on the run. But with each new alliance, the stakes grew higher and the law's grip tightened. The transformation was complete. Henry McCarty, the boy from New York, was gone. Now he was known as Billy the Kid, a name that would soon be famous across the valleys and the flatlands of New Mexico. His charm and quick wit made him a legend among those who knew him, but his growing list of crimes made him a target for the lawmen. Billy the Kid was now a symbol of rebellion against the powers that sought the control of the wild frontier. His journey from an orphan boy to becoming a famous outlaw shows just how wild and chaotic those times were in the American West. But every story, no matter how legendary, has its shadow. And for Billy, the shadow of the law was never far behind. As Billy the Kid made a name for himself among New Mexico's outlaws, trouble was on the horizon. This trouble was the Lincoln County War, a fierce fight that turned neighbors against each other and paved a way for Billy to infamy. At the heart of this trouble was not just a dispute over land or wealth. It was a fight for freedom. John Tunstall, an Englishman, stood up against the powerful merchants Lawrence Murphy and James Dolan. He challenged their control, fighting for fairness and equality. To Billy the Kid, John Tunstall was more than just a mentor. He was a beacon of hope in a place where it was hard to find justice. Tunstall's murder in 1878 sparked a rebellion, driving Billy and a group of young men who were employed by Tunstall, which included Dick Brewer, John Middleton, Henry Newton Brown, Fred Waite, and Doc Scurlock, to unite as the Lincoln County Regulators. The Lincoln County War wasn't just a bunch of fights. It was a battle against tyranny. Billy the Kid, joined by the regulators, fought hard for revenge and fairness. Their bold actions during the war made them legends of the Wild West. When the smoke cleared, the scars of the Lincoln County War were deep and lasting. Lives were forever changed, and the once lively streets of Lincoln County showed signs of major unrest. For Billy the Kid and the regulators, the conclusion of the war signified a pivotal moment. They emerged not merely as outlaws, but as icons of opposition, an honor that came with dire consequences. The Lincoln County War is still a moving story of betrayal, bravery, and the search for justice in the wild heart of the American West. And at the heart of this legendary tale were Billy the Kid and the regulators, who would leave their mark on history. As the Lincoln County War ended, Billy the Kid entered a dangerous new phase of his life. No longer just a participant in local conflict, he was now a marked man pursued by lawmen and bounty hunters to the wide open spaces of New Mexico territory. Life on the run was a test of wit, will, and endurance. Billy's days were filled with narrow escapes, living in the shadows, and relying on the kindness of those sympathetic to his cause. His skill of disappearing into the night and showing up miles away before anyone chasing him knew he was gone turned into legendary stories. But it wasn't just the thrill of the chase that defined Billy's fugitive life. He sought to clear his name and fight the unfairness that made him known as an outlaw. His encounters with friends and enemies alike were marked by moments of loyalty, betrayal, and the ongoing threat of violence. Even though being an outlaw gave him the kind of freedom, the heavy truth of his life was always there. Billy the Kid was a young man stuck in a never-ending chase to stay alive, where peaceful moments were as brief as a desert mirage. As the bounty on Billy grew, so did his infamy. Tales of his deeds spread far and wide, blurring the lines between the man and the myth. But under all the stories, there was someone who wished for a different life, one far away from the threat of the lawmen's guns. Billy the Kid's time on the run shows the unbreakable spirit of one of the Wild West's most iconic figures. It's a story of survival, of never giving up on the search for freedom, and the strong friendships that stand firm against the harshest of realities. As the story of Billy the Kid neared its end, the shadows of his past began to close in around him. The man who had become known as a legend for his daring escapes and opposition to the law would soon face his ultimate challenge. Pat Garrett, once a friend of Billy's, was now the sheriff tasked for bringing him in to justice. With a determination as strong as the mountains in Mexico, Garrett was determined to end Billy's run. The stage was set for a showdown that would seal both of their fates. The night of July 14, 1881, would forever be remembered in the history of the Wild West. Garrett and his men surrounded the old Fort Sumner building where Billy was staying. The air was thick with anticipation, and the quietness hinting at an impending storm. In a surprising turn of events, Billy found himself in the same room as Garrett on that dark night. A single gunshot broke the silence, signaling the end of the legendary outlaw's life. Billy the Kid, the boy who became a symbol of the Wild West untamed spirit, met his end at the hands of a lawman who was once his friend. The final showdown between Billy the Kid and Pat Garrett was more than the end of a man. It was a closing of a chapter in American history. Billy's death did not just signify the triumph of law over lawlessness. It signaled the end of an era when figures like Billy the Kid could roam free. In the years that followed, the legend of Billy the Kid grew, surpassing the man himself. His life, filled with adventure, rebellion, and tragedy, became a symbol of freedom and the threats of the Wild West. Billy the Kid's story, from the first steps into outlawry to his final showdown, still captures attention and fascination, serving as a lasting reminder of the human spirit. Though Billy's life was cut short at age 21, his legacy has lasted far beyond the years he roamed the Wild West. The tale of the young outlaw who became a legend has been passed down through generations, evolving into a symbol of rebellion, freedom, and the difficulties of American frontier justice. Billy the Kid's story has captivated the imagination of writers, filmmakers, and artists, transforming him from a historical figure into an icon of American folklore. His life has been romanticized and debated, depicted in countless films, books, and songs, each interpretation adding a layer to the myth that surrounds him. Yet, among the myth-making, the nature of Billy the Kid's story touches on universal themes of justice, identity, and oppression. His defiance against the authorities who sought to control him resonates with those who question the boundaries of law and freedom. The landscapes of Mexico, where Billy lived and died, hold the ghost of his adventures. Visitors to sites like Lincoln County and Fort Sumner can still feel the presence of the past, a reminder of the violent times that shaped the legend of Billy the Kid. Billy the Kid's legacy is a testament to the fascination with the Wild West and its characters, a reflection of the American spirit of independence and persistence. As long as his stories are told, the legend of Billy the Kid will continue to inspire, entertain, and provoke thought, a timeless reminder of the life lived on the edge of legend and reality. Behind the legend of Billy the Kid lies historical facts and intellectual debates. Historians and researchers have long sought to untangle the myth from reality, offering insights that shed lights on the ramifications of his life and the era he lived in. Scholars have examined legal records, newspaper articles from the late 1800s, and first-hand accounts to construct a more exact portrait of Billy the Kid. Their work reveals a figure who is both a product of his time and an individual with his own motivations and moral compass. The consensus acknowledges Billy's involvement in criminal activity, but also emphasizes the social class and political context that fueled his descent into rebellion. The Lincoln County War, for instance, is not just a backdrop for his adventures, but as a pivotal event that shaped his path and the broader narrative of the American West. Experts point out that the harsh realities of the frontier life, marked by lawlessness, corruption, and economic struggle, played a significant role in the choices available to individuals like Billy the Kid. His ability to navigate the world, to inspire loyalty among friends, and elude capture speaks of his intelligence and adaptability. Debates among scholars also extend to Billy the Kid's legacy. While some view him as a cold-blooded killer, others argue that he was a victim of his circumstances, forced into a life of crime by injustices that surrounded him. This dual nature lies at the core of why he continues to draw interest over time. The quest to understand Billy the Kid continues to evolve, with new discoveries and interpretations refining our understanding of the man and the myth. This ongoing debate promises that Billy the Kid remains a subject of academic inquiry and public interest, a figure symbolic of the challenges and the mysteries of the American frontier. Billy the Kid's story, rooted in the harsh realities of the American frontier, continues to captivate and provoke thought, exceeding the bounds of time to speak to the universal themes of freedom, identity, and the fine line between right and wrong. Billy the Kid remains a figure of fascination not merely for his exploits, but also for what he represents, an enduring symbol of rebellion against injustice and the unstoppable spirit of the Wild West. Through research, artistic interpretation, and popular culture, the story of Billy the Kid continues, growing with each generation that discovers a story. It demonstrates how stories can influence how we perceive the past and its effects on today and tomorrow. Thank you for watching this video on the journey through the life of one of the most iconic figures of the American West. Billy the Kid's story, with all its darkness and light, remains both inspiring and thought-provoking, serving as an enduring legacy of a past era that still deeply connects with the American spirit. Remember to hit the like button if you found this entertaining and informative, or dislike it if you didn't. Subscribe to the channel for further biographies like this one. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.